I'm wondering if Z here has had the voice feminization surgery herself or not.
So, she didn't have vocal change surgery?
Hi, where did you get your surgery at? Are you sure you didn't get vocal cord surgery?
Gee, I don't know.
Have I had vocal surgery? And even more importantly, do you need vocal surgery to change your speaking voice? Now, that first question is shocking to me because as an individual who runs an entire public YouTube channel and public platform dedicated to teaching people how to change their own voice behaviorally, no. I have not had vocal surgery. I will never get vocal surgery. I don't think the vocal risk is worth it in my case, given the fact that voice is such a proficient ability of mine. So for that reason, I do not intend to get any vocal surgery, and I have not had any vocal surgery at this point in time. Now, do you need vocal surgery in order to reach your vocal goals? Well, that depends on what your vocal goals are, and the answer is probably not. Each person has a different recipe or balance of how much time they're willing to give, how proficient they feel about voice, how much emotional energy they have to give this process. The value of a surgical option seems to increase in those cases because it's an easier path to get some therapeutic benefit from the reduction of gender dysphoria for voice. The fundamental problem with vocal surgery is that no surgical or physical alteration is a substitute for a learned behavior or a innate communicative behavior. When we vocalize, it's a direct process, and we have so much history and pattern and expression around those vocalization patterns that we reach for them, and that becomes part of the naturalness in the sound and the sort of maturity of the sound. And so we can change things physically and we can get some effects, and in some cases it can be very profound, especially if a person already has a more culturally feminine vocal sound. Then if the vocal structures change, you get a better effect from a surgical result, but just nothing substitutes your ability to hear and interact and do and really intuitively normalize these so that they're genuinely learned and genuinely normalized behaviors. Surgery can't download a skill into us. If you talk to most vocal surgeons anyways, they'll typically recommend voice therapy or voice training in addition to vocal surgery. So we should never really look at vocal surgery as like a one-stop option to take care of vocal issues, especially if your goal is to really express yourself with a wider palette. Vocal surgery almost always limits options further. It never really expands or opens options. It just makes some things more accessible, but it always comes with some reduction in expressivity, whether that is loudness, whether that is clarity, so on and so forth.
But see, can voice training really help me achieve my vocal goals and pass?
This ever persistent question of, can I achieve my vocal goals? Can I feminize my voice enough to pass? Can I masculinize my voice enough to pass? It's a very interesting question because it kind of puts a spotlight on a misunderstanding that a lot of individuals have about voice, and that is that the average male and average female voice are worlds apart in their behavior and in their output. For example, if you have two bell curves like this, and this is average male here and average female range there, we can see there is quite a bit of overlap between the two. So even in terms of pitch range, it's really not that dramatically different. And in terms of the actual overall total physical range that each person has, most average testosterone exposed voices have all of the range that you would see in average female voice range and average male range. So we end up seeing the overall range is much bigger than what is even necessary for us to have in most cases. Individuals who have experienced some masculinization to their voice, myself included, and many students that I've worked with who have much lower starting points than myself, we can still achieve that behaviorally. Now, the inverse is not 100% true. In the case of our trans masculine friends, when they're working towards a lower, more masculine voice, and they're working from a place where they've never been exposed to high degrees of testosterone, that creates an effect where it'll be a bit more of a challenge to get as low as, let's say, like really average male voices might get, but that option is there depending on their ability to utilize hormones in their transition or not. Training can still give great results in that case, but you tend to not be able to see quite as much low end without testosterone exposure. So much of what separates a male sounding voice from a female sounding voice is in the way that we are enculturated to speak, the way that we actually vocalize. It's not necessarily about our physical hardware. For example, when we record the voices of 3 and 4-year-old boys and girls, and then we acoustically analyze that data, we can pretty accurately classify boy and girl in that category. However, if you go and look at the internal physical structures, the deviations that we measure acoustically are disproportionate to what we would expect if it was just purely a physical change alone. So even by that early, there is already gender performance entering our voice. So in short, yes, the physical hardware matters, but what you do with it matters way more. And what we can do with it compared to what we start out thinking we can do with it are two worlds of difference. We may think that we only have this much vocal range and this much option, but if we get to know our voice and we get to develop that vocal rapport and vocal proficiency, we'll find that our capacity for expression with our voice is so much wider than what we ever could have imagined early in the process. So whether surgery is the right option for you, that's going to be entirely dependent on your needs as a person. Regardless though, become educated about the different types of surgeries, really weigh the pros and cons, and I would really recommend to everyone to give an honest effort to trying to learn voice through behavioral means without surgery, because the reality is most of us can achieve a very profound result and often a higher resolution or more detailed and wider expressive result that is more characteristic to what we ultimately want through behavioral process. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to support the work we're doing on this channel, check us out on Patreon. That is who makes these videos available. So thank you so much to our patrons, and otherwise have a great rest of your day. Bye.